Welcome back from the break, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us through another episode of Independent Thought. My guest for this week is Cortney V, the host of Thee Barbie Way Podcast. Cortney, how are you doing today? Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, what is going on? Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
First time guest. I appreciate you coming on. And, as is tradition, whenever I have someone come on for the first time and they're a fellow podcaster, I always want to give them a chance to talk about their podcast before we get into the political topics. So could you just tell me a little bit about what exactly was the motivation behind starting your podcast and what can someone expect when they come to check you out?
Right. So the motivation was just free expression, creative expression, being able to connect with other people. So a lot of my episodes in my first season was more so like personal journal style. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of experience I went through, and so many people connected with me. So that was more motivating than anything that kept me going.
Yeah.
And listening to my podcast, I would say you can get a handpick of everything. Um, from obviously, we don't talk so much about politics as you do here, but maybe like relationships or some of the hot topics that are going on, or just my views. I can't even think. It's really very versatile in some of the topics that we talk about. Financial literacy, a lot of things that go on in the Black community. Like I like to shed light and advocate on certain things like that.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So, that's interesting that you say versatile because I know that a lot of podcasters like to keep it simple or like in one lane niche. They want to talk about one specific thing over and over and over again. They think that being versatile is actually a bad thing, but you obviously don't feel that way. Why was it important for you to have like a wide array of topics on your podcast?
Mainly because I guess it's just who I am, to be honest. Like I come with layers, and there's certain things where I indulge in, like these topics. Like I may be so into this and I may be so into that. And it's like just because I created the podcast, it's like I'm not gonna just, it was really like again, free expression. So it's like whatever I'm thinking about at that time. You know what I mean? Like I kept it as that and just been me. So it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think one of the things that I saw on your podcast recently, earlier this year, actually, I think it was not too long ago, you had an episode where you talked about vaccines and you seemed like you were a little bit hesitant, in order to get the vaccine. Now, would you mind telling like me why you are hesitant to get the vaccine and what made you skeptical of, I guess, the government and pharmaceutical industry, so on and so forth?
Right. So I was very much hesitant to even get the vaccine when it first came out, only because how fast it was. The ingredients wasn't even available to see what it was. Like it's possibly synthetic. I just didn't trust it. And not only that, from the history of America, you know, those type of vaccines that were created, even though the Spanish flu was the last bad pandemic, like some of the Tuskegee experiment, like
Right.
something that similar, it makes me feel like I'm just not going to be a lab rat. Like I will want 100%, and it's not 100%.
Right. And
No guarantee.
it does feel like a lot of people that I talk to in the Black community are very hesitant because of those Tuskegee experiments that were happening down in Alabama, and it's totally understandable why some people would be very much against that, especially when a lot of people think that politicians, primarily Democrats, only seem to come around the Black community when they want someone's vote, especially. I hear that a lot, especially come election year, that, oh, they just come around once every 4 years when
Right.
they want something from us. Do you feel that also? Like, do you and your family like feel something similar to that?
Not, I would say so. I would say so. And I feel like at one point my family was possibly on the Democratic side. You know what I mean? I remember like past elections, very old elections, whatever. But today, I do feel like the Democratic side does that. And it's based on all of these programs that they have provided throughout the years. Like everything is giving, giving, giving. And I think they provided that for a certain community with a certain demographic, And that will always mean they're right there. It's just, you're right here. This is where you're at. And I think it was counted on for politicians. So everything worked out. It was just a 360 for everyone.
It does feel like sometimes that some of these politicians, primarily Democrats, feel as though that they can like take Black people for granted. Like they just expect that they can just show up and then they'll just get that vote. I think, what was it? I mean, everyone kind of like references that time where Joe Biden said, like, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't Black.
Right. Not only that, he was in the barbershops and areas that you would never. So it's like it does make you think like that, and how even the media about it, like how they were having their small commercials and this and funny posts. It's like, I don't know. I guess they were trying to attract a younger crowd too, as well. But because I feel like it's a lot of marketing when it comes down to elections. So
yeah, and I think one of the things that I've always been curious about is why do the Democrats have such like a strong foothold within the Black community? Right. I mean, because it feels as though, like after, Joe Biden went to South Carolina and won that primary, basically like everyone just like threw their support behind him. Like, why do you think that so many people are behind Joe Biden particularly?
I think so, to be honest, I think it's not just a Black thing for me, but I think it's about people who are comfortable allowing the government to take care for them, because that's what a lot of it stems down to. Like when you see it, Joe Biden wanted to offer so much more. He wanted to give this away and give that away. And granted, none of it, the student loans didn't even happen. But what I'm saying is he promised all of these things. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And people banked on that and had faith on that, because I need that. You'll do it for me, I'll do it. I'll vote for you. And I think that's what they pride on in the Democratic Party, because they know these people need us. So when you feel like these group of people need you, then, I can tell them this and they'll go for that. But it never happens, because even if they do give it to you, again, you're still confined in this bracket. You'll never move up or down. So it's like, why is that certain type of people relying so heavy? People just rely too much on help.
Right. And I see that, time and time again, that people do more or less put their faith in politicians, time and time again. And it does feel as though they don't really deliver on the promises that they said they were going to make. Joe Biden, for instance, said that he was going to just wipe away at least $10,000 worth of student debt to everyone in America. Now, all he has to do is just, sign his pen and then it's done.
Right.
Hasn't done that yet. Do you think that instances like that kind of lead into people more or less just losing their faith in politicians, and maybe kind of leads into why people are so distrustful of the government?
I believe so. And I think it's because we actually see it more now. It's more televised than ever. I think this was one of the first elections where they had the most votes ever. More people were aware. People were at home because COVID, watching what's going on, seeing what's going on. I think he was able to outreach so many people, and the pressure probably made him do that. But I think now people get to see, like, he just wasn't a man of his word. I mean, not only that, this is so funny, but he was sleeping or falling asleep. I think it's so funny with the name Sleepy Joe when it comes to Joe Biden.
Now, Donald Trump gave him that name. I didn't really think it was sticking that well. I mean, the man is old. I mean, he's pretty old.
No, but he actually had it was circulating on Twitter, a video of him kind of like, it literally looked like his eyes were closed. He was dozing off when he was in a meeting. I think, I'm not even sure who it was, someone from Japan, possibly, if I'm mistaken. Don't count my word, but he was falling asleep.
Do you think that those things matter? Like, does it matter if a president is, well, I mean, at 78 years old, he's an old man. I mean, do you think that matters at all?
I think so, when they know it's getting publicized, because then it leaves room for people to, like what I'm doing, formulate my own opinions. Why are you doing that? And then it's like, people are going to do that anyway, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't think that would be acceptable. No.
So going back to the 2020 election,
Right.
Joe Biden, Donald Trump, you told me that somebody really close to you voted for Donald Trump. Like, what are your personal feelings on Donald Trump? And do you support Donald Trump, or do you like look differently at people who support Donald Trump?
So here's the thing. I'm not against Donald Trump, right? And yes, I did have a loved one who did that. And it's just I was shocked at first because at the time I was like, Trump felt like a bigot, like he wanted attention and he was very blunt and outspoken and I guess you could say passionate, about whatever he talked about. But I think he also allowed room for the people in like white supremacy kind of crowd to be more outspoken, to be more seen, to be more vocal, and actually put hurt in certain communities
Yeah.
and start, like a race war in a way. And it may not have been intentional, but you're the president of United States of America. Your influence is heavy. So like that's why I think certain things that get publicized should, that's why you have publicists. Everything should be you are a representation, you're probably a model, you're a role model. I think that's major. And I just feel like the value of it just decreased over. Like having a president means what anymore?
Donald
I
Trump
mean,
has
that's
changed a lot of
major, but
opinions on people.
I'm saying like it's just like what's going on, That's how it feels sometimes.
It it felt as though Donald Trump more or less changed the whole landscape about what it meant to be a president. And I think the whole time I was trying to remind myself that that's not what it's supposed to be like. Just seeing kind of the things he was doing, seeing the rallies that he had. I did an episode last year where I watched 6 of his rallies leading up to doing my episode on him. And yeah, I mean, it was like a comedy show. I mean, I
The
felt like he
aggression
treated
grew
it
every
like a
time.
performance. He was trying to jazz the
Right.
crowd up. He was, bringing people on stage. He was, walked off a plane to a theme song. I mean, just is not
But do you
exactly what
think
I'm
that's
thinking of
wrong?
a
Do you
president.
think it's kind of like a backfire into how America was just all built? Because like again, what does it take to become the United States? I mean, United States president, what does it take? I think you have to be like 30 something, a
35.
US citizen,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Last time I checked.
That's what I'm so
Yeah.
like I'm not sure.
Yeah, the qualifications are pretty low, and I think there's a good debate on whether or not that's a good thing. That there's a similar thing happening in my town right now. There's the mayor's race is going on in my city right now, and the only qualification to be the mayor of my city is you have to be 18 years old and you have
Wow.
to live in the city, and that's it. And that's it.
Wow.
Then anyone can run to be mayor. So maybe we should be putting a little extra qualifications on running for office. But speaking of government itself, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about some of these issues was it does feel as though when I think about vaccines right now, when I think about what's happening in the country right now, it feels like a lot of people are losing their faith in the government, or just have lost it. And now we're seeing that kind of like translate in real time, especially with
Right.
vaccines coming out. What do you think, could be done by the government to get people to actually start believing in them again on any level?
Uh in a great world, honest, open communication. Like if there was a way, obviously, to get a real message out there. And the messed up part about it, I think that it can't happen as far as the government trying to is because of technology today.
Yeah.
There's always going to be articles, blogs, and this and it's always going to be a fight of look at me, here, check this out kind of thing.
Right.
And then you start to
Disinformation is
lose sight of
massive.
the message. Exactly.
Yeah. So a little more
It's that,
transparency, a little more open
yeah.
form of communication. It does definitely feel that way, that a lot of the distrust that we see comes from conflicting information, especially over the pandemic, right?
People don't know what to believe. They go down Facebook and that's their news. They go to they see a blog, the article shared from 2002, and they believe it happened today. It's like everyone just depends so much on these apps. So it's like, it's hard for that to happen. But I mean, I think, yeah, the government just needs to be transparent, but that's hard because it's so much, again, to unpack. It's like, it's too much at this point. I think it's just coming down to like, this was possibly supposed to happen.
Absolutely. Well, Cortney, I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking to me about some of these issues. If people want to find you and your podcast, where can they find you at online?
Yeah, so if you do have Instagram, I am on there at The Barbie Way with 2 E's with the, and that's on Twitter as well. And my tag handles as far as where you can listen to the Barbie Way podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, I think it's called. Sorry, I can't even remember the name. Anchor, just pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts.
All right. And we'll have some links for everyone down in the episode description. So I want to thank you again, Cortney, for coming on. For everyone else, we'll be right back after one final break with my final thoughts of the day. Stay tuned.